everyone. So yesterday you watched a video that started to introduce the idea of three-dimensional shapes, or shapes that take up space that you can see all around. So today we're going to start looking at some of those shapes that you hunted for yesterday, and we're going to start talking about how we can describe them. So the first one we're going to start off with is our cone. So our cone, you can see up here, we can describe it with its name. But we also learned yesterday that there's three different parts that we can talk about on a cone or any three-dimensional shape. We can talk about its faces, its edges, and its vertices. A face is the flat surface of a three-dimensional shape, and you can normally see, or you can see, a two-dimensional shape. So on a cone, at the bottom, we have this flat surface, and this is the face of the cone, and it is a circle. Now, on your video, I know it told you that you don't have any edges or vertices, but this is actually a really big debate in mathematical areas. Lots of mathematicians say that there is not an edge or a vertice or vertex in a cone, but many say that there are. So really, there are. So on a cone, we have a flat face. We have an edge where we can go from our face and kind of fall over like this. So we have the edge at the bottom, we have the flat face, and we also have a vertex or a point at the top. So on a cone, we have one of each. So let me go into my marker holder. So we have one face, and it is a circle. So I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm going to write the number 1 beside it. Maybe I should write circle because it looks like a 0. So we have a circle face, and we have one of them. We have one edge, and we have one vertice. Now I'm going to show you those with my chalk. So if we look, we can see that blue marks the vertice. A little X right here can mark the face, and then the purple is where we have that edge. Now on a cone, it's not so bad, but when we get to something like a cube, having our colors of our chalk really help. So our next shape is a cube. So if we look at our cube, we see lots of these flat faces. Now when we're trying to count them, that makes it a little bit tricky. So we like to hold on and we like to make a little mark. So there's 1, we know we've counted it. 2, then I go behind. 3, and I go underneath. 4. Then I go to each side. 5 and 6. Now I know I've counted them all. We have 6 flat faces. All of the faces on a cube are squares. So I'm going to write 6, and then I'm going to draw a square and write 6. Edges. Okay, edges are definitely tricky, and we need to make sure we're being careful as we count those. I like to count mine from the top and then the front. So I use my chalk and I line it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've done all around the top of my cube. So 4, then I'm going to do the bottom. 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I try not to move it around too much because then I get confused. So I've got 8 so far. But the edges are where we move from one face to another. And I have one right here that I haven't counted. So 8. So then this is 9, 10. And then I'm just going to turn it around for a second. And then I have 11 and 12. So I have 4 and 4. Here is 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. So there's 12 edges. Now our vertices are the pointy parts, or they're where 2 edges meet. So if I take my pink, I can find my pointy parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We do have 8 vertices. I always like to think of my vertices as kind of like a corner. And I know we use the word corner when we describe our two-dimensional shapes. I like to travel along, and then at my corner, I'm going to switch directions. Sometimes that helps us remember it too. Okay, so that is our cube, which I know that we're familiar with. This is a little bit of a review. Let's go to a cylinder. So on our cylinder, now remember, faces are flat faces. So we have a flat face here and we have a flat face here. So that means that we have two faces. Both of our faces are circles, and we're going to write 2. Oh, I meant to use a different color. That's okay. Now we look for edges. So remember, an edge is something that we could kind of fall off. So we go from our face, and from our face, if we can fall, or we would go in a different direction, that's our edge. So I have one edge here, and it just happens to be a circular edge, and I have one edge over here. Both of these are our edges. So we have 2 edges, but when we look, there's no pointy parts, no vertices. So we have 0. Then we go to our sphere. We all like spheres because they're just like balls. So on a sphere, we don't have any flat faces. So we're 0. On a sphere, we don't have any edges. We also don't have any vertices. There's no pointy parts. So it's 0 for all of them. Now, on a rectangular prism, it's very much like our cube. We're going to get our chalk out again just to count our faces. So faces at the top, 1. Faces at the bottom, 2. 3, 4. At the back is 5, and the other side is 6. So we have 6 faces on our rectangular prism. And on this rectangular prism, all of our faces are rectangles. That's the two-dimensional shape that we can see. Now for edges, the same thing that we did with our cube. We have go along the top, where we know, where we can see that we're changing from one face to another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at the side, 7, and 8. And we can't forget about the edges that go down. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we had 8, and then we had the 4 going down is 12. So we have 12 edges. Then for our vertices, same thing. So we'll count the pointy parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have 8 vertices on a rectangular prism. On a triangular prism, I like triangular prisms because they remind me of Toblerone bars. But anyways, on a triangular prism, let's count faces. So I'm going to start right here. So there's a flat face, 1. I know I have a flat face on the bottom, 2. And I have a flat face at the back, 3. Can't forget about the sides. So I have a flat face here, 4, and a flat face, 5. So we have 5 faces, but this one has 2 different kinds of faces. So we have 5 faces. Now we have rectangle faces around the middle, but at our ends we have triangles. So we have 3 rectangles and we have 2 triangles that go together to make our triangular prism. Now for edges, I'll start at the top again. So remember, we're always looking for where our 2 faces meet. 1, let me hold the sides, 2, and the back is 3. Then I have to go and do my ends. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 edges on a triangular prism. So when we go to find those vertices, remember we're looking for those pointy parts or where our edges or faces are meeting. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have 6 vertices in a triangular prism. Now the last two I say for last because they're my favorite. They are pyramids. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about pyramids in depth next time, but for now we're just going to have a quick look. I've got 2 pyramids for us today. In our pyramids, we can always tell they are because they have a vertex up at the top. So they come to that point up at the top. Now, not like a cone, because a cone does not have flat faces that lead up to the point. On a pyramid, you have flat faces that lead up to the point or the vertex at the top. So we have our pyramids. Now, the only way to tell the difference between pyramids is to look at the bottom. When we look at the bottom, we look for the 2-dimensional shape that we see. This pyramid has a triangle, and this pyramid has a square. Now we look at those and we call that the base or the bottom. So this is called a triangular based pyramid, and this one is called a square based pyramid. So these are the 2 pyramids that we're going to look at today. So when we look at our pyramids, we're going to do the triangular based one first. So we know it's triangular based because there's a triangle at the bottom. So let's count faces. So this one's not too hard. So if we start here, we go 1, we go around to the side, 2, and 3. And don't forget the bottom. That's really important. 4. So we have 4 faces on our triangular based pyramid. And if we look, those are all triangles at the top and a triangle at the bottom. So all 4 faces are triangles. Okay, let's do those edges. So looking for where our faces meet up. We have 1 right here, move around, 2, 3, but you have to count the bottom. 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 edges on a triangular based pyramid. Now when you get to the vertices, we already know we have 1 at the top. We've talked about that. So we have 1 here, but you also have to count the ones at the bottom. 2, 3, and 4. So then you have 4 vertices. Then if we go to look at our square-based pyramid, okay, so let's count those faces again. So we have 1, 2, count to the back, 3, and the side is 4. Don't forget about the bottom, 5. We have 5 flat faces. So we have 5 faces. Now, if we look at the top, these faces along the top are triangles. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are triangles. And if we look at the bottom, we see a square. We have 1 square face. Now, if we go to look at those edges, so we'll count up top first. 1, go to the side, 2, 3, 4. Then flip to the bottom, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We have 8 edges. Then when we go to look at our vertices, we already know we have 1 at the top. Flip, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have 5 vertices on a square-based pyramid. So those are our main 3-dimensional shapes that we're going to be working with over the next little bit. The terms or the math vocabulary that we want to be using are faces, edges, and vertices. So remember, faces are the flat parts that we can see on our shape, and they are in 2-dimensional shapes. We can describe them that way. Remember that the edge is where 2 surfaces meet. So we have our flat surfaces, and then I guess we'll call this a curved surface. So we don't call it a face, it's just a surface. But that's an edge, and that's an edge, because it's where 2 surfaces meet. And we can see that edge really clearly. And then we have our vertices. So vertices are really easy to call the pointy parts, but the vertice is where we can see that we can see edges that are coming together, or where the pointy parts are. Okay, so where edges are meeting. So those are the three big math vocabulary words that we're going to be needing when we describe three-dimensional shapes. So today you're going to be going on to your next task, and all you're going to be doing today is paying attention to names, so that we're naming our shapes properly, making sure the right math vocabulary. And then you're also going to be looking at a few shapes and describing what types of faces you see on them. So we know to look at the flat parts and look for the two-dimensional shape. And then the last little task that you're going to do today is you're going to be looking at some shapes, and you're going to be typing in the names of the words that describe the shape for the name, and they're all above, so you can just copy them. And then you're going to also be telling how many faces, edges, and vertices. And yes, you may come back to this video and you may use this tool to help you complete that sheet. So that is what you're going to be up to today. Have fun, and I look forward to seeing your work. Bye, guys.